So welcome everyone to Watershed Stewards Academy session 3. We have a really fun night for you guys. This is usually the night where we talk all about online maps. And so I hope you enjoyed the information that you watched or viewed ahead of time. But I want to, Francesca, I think there's, so we're going to start with a welcome and an icebreaker, and then we're going to do some introductions of the special guests that we have here with us. I was starting to introduce you to Laura, but we have 3 special guests, so we'll introduce them. And then we're actually going to, I guess this agenda is a little bit switched. We're going to spend a little bit of time reviewing the Watershed Stewards Academy Class 13 website and the Google Doc site, so that because there's been so many questions about, you know, where do I find this? What about that? And we'll just quickly review those resources at the beginning for a few minutes, have a couple questions and answers, and then at 7 o'clock, you'll have the opportunity to ask more questions if you don't get your questions answered. But so many of the questions that come in, I feel like either could be answered on the site right now or should be answered on the site if we put the information on, including the link. So we'll take a look at that site. So why don't we start with the icebreaker?
Yeah, thanks. So our icebreaker tonight is a poll. So we're going to ask you kind of your comfort level with 3 things. So as Suzanne mentioned, we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable. We're going to spend a little time on that. So I'm going to launch 3 questions about how comfortable you are using GIS, the class website, and Google folders. So they're coming up, and the first one should be appearing on your screen. So be honest, and if you're not comfortable, that's okay. It'll be really helpful for us to kind of have a good gauge on that so we know how to help people do the best they can.
Spoiler alert, we're going to ask you the same questions at the end and see if we have made a difference with our hour that we're spending together.
Okay, almost everybody has answered. Okay. And just to show you, you're all in good company. No one's alone. So we are going to make sure everybody can be the best they can and learn what they need to learn in order to succeed. Like Suzanne said, we'll ask you at the end of the night, and hopefully we'll have helped you a little bit.
So Francesca, I actually didn't see the poll result. I saw them for a second, but I didn't see them very long. Can you put them up again?
Sure.
So we've got 53% that are, with a little more practice, I'll be okay. And some people need a little bit of help. And then with the website, about half are comfortable or getting there. And there's a couple people that need some help. And it looks like the same thing with Google folders. So that's good to know. So why don't we do some really quick introductions. So I want to start by introducing my really good friend, Laura Mulvaney. Laura is a steward from class 1, and I met her in like November of 2008 when she first moved to the area, and she was actually on a field trip with her then 4th grader, or 5th grader, I guess it was 5th grade then, at Arlington Echo, and she was looking to get involved. In any case, she joined the Watershed Stewards Academy first class, which was in March of 2009. And after about 3 sessions, she looked at me. It was just me at the time. I was the only staff for WSA, and we were like creating the program as we were delivering it, like literally. And she looked at me after the third class, and she said, you look like you could use a little help. And so luckily we had a little bit of extra funding. We squeezed together and hired her on a part-time basis, and she really built Watershed Stewards Academy. As a steward, she's out there, you know, all the time working in our community, and she worked on a lot of the resources that we see today, we're seeing today. And then as an added bonus, she actually went back to school to do to learn more about mapping, and she actually works doing GIS mapping professionally. So she's the perfect person to lead a group presentation on additional mapping resources and the ways that she's used mapping in her community. Next, I'm going to ask Josh to introduce our other two guests, and then when we get in our breakouts, all of the presenters can introduce themselves just a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. I've asked Jim Crafton and Lisa Garmo to join us tonight. Both of them are from class 11, which kind of holds a special place in my heart. That was the first class that I got to interact with when I joined WSA a few years ago. Jim is really active in the Manatee River Association. He just completed a really great project last fall. And Lisa is one of our co-leaders for the residential site assessment group that we have that we'll talk about a little bit later. But both of them are really good at GIS. They're really good at kind of bringing it to bear when it comes to site assessments. So as you break out into their group tonight, I think it's going to be a really good experience. They'll be able to answer any questions you might have.
Great. So next, Francesca, since you're sharing, will you go ahead and either stop sharing and I'll share the website, or you can share the website either way?
I'm actually sharing.
Oh,
Suzanne.
okay.
I'll pull that up right now. Give me 1 second. Let me pull that over.
While he's doing that, I'll just start talking. So here we go. Here's the class website. So I know we showed this to you guys on the first day of class, but we've had so many questions that I wanted to just review some things that are on the website to make sure everybody's sort of really, really comfortable about what's here and what's not here. And I'm gonna just actually start with the sessions tab up here. The sessions tab has each session as we have it on, usually we're 1 week ahead. So let's go ahead and open session 3. The session 3 tab we posted last week. And on every session tab, you'll see 4 things. The first thing that you'll see at the top of the page is the learning outcomes. So this is sort of what we're hoping to get out of the session. The second thing that you'll see is what to do before you come to class. So before you come, you're going to have basically some things to read and view. You'll have some things to explore. And again, explore is, we just want you to know this is here. We want you to know basically that it exists, but you don't have to read every word of it. And then you'll have some reflection to do. So for this one, it was just jotting down, you know, questions or insights, but you know, it could be, you know, a follow-up assignment or an assignment to do ahead of time. So that's what you complete before you come to class. It's always going to be on that session tab. And again, we're going to post that before 1 week ahead of time so that you can always be reading a week ahead of time. So if you scroll down shortly after the session, actually there's nothing there. I wonder why there isn't anything. Oh, that's because we're in session 3. Hello. After the session, Josh or Francesca will upload the session recording, and they'll upload any resources that we talked about during the session. So if you want to go back and say, oh, I want to look at that PowerPoint that Josh did, you can always go to the session content that's going to be posted there. And then after you've completed all the pre-work, you've gone through the session, you'll take the assessment, and that's at the bottom. And that just basically tells us, you know, did we do a good enough job helping you learn the things that we said we were going to learn? So for every session, this is your go-to. It's got everything that you need to know for what to do before, during, and after class. So if you ever wonder, what do I need to do? You just go to whatever session you're on. Also, if you miss a session and you're like, oh, I missed that, you can always go back and listen to the recording if you would like to hear us. So that is that. Let's, Josh, go to session 4. So session 4 is next week, and we're going to be talking about engaging audiences. And what I want you to notice is that we've already posted the learning outcomes, and we've already posted everything you need to do in order to get ready for session 4. So you can see the things that you view or read, you can see the things that you explore, and you can see the reflection. So it's just jot down any questions that you have. Let's go on to assignments. That's the next tab. The assignments tab is your one-stop shop for everything that you need to know about, like the big assignments, the big assignments that are in your syllabus, not the assessments that we do or any homework or follow-up. These are the big things that we're giving you to help you learn. And we've introduced 3 of those so far. Actually, as of tonight, we will have introduced 3. Last week, I introduced Capstone Proposal Part 1 and the community presentation. And so if you click the link for either one of those, Josh, you'll find all of the documents that you need to complete that assignment. And looks like we're having okay, there we go. So you've got a description of the assignment. It just tells you what you need to do. You've got the capstone form, and you have the neighborhood source assessment form. So you got it all there. You also have those things in your individual Google Doc or Google folder that Josh is going to show you. So if you're ever wondering, what do I need to do for this assignment? Your description gives you when it's due, what to do, helpful hints, how to turn it in. All of that stuff is right there. So let's go back. And I have two more tabs to show you. So you can see we've only posted the things we've introduced. So that's all you have to worry about right now. I'll talk to you about 2 more tabs, and then I'll ask for questions. Let's go to the capstone tab. So the capstone tab has nothing on it. Interesting. I just published a bunch of stuff like right before this. I wonder if my slow internet, so I did create a bunch of stuff. I'll post it, but essentially on this page, I created a little description, and I pulled in all of the resources that I introduced last week to help you with your capstone project. So I'll, after class, try to reload that while I'm at a better internet site. And then the last one I want to show you is Class 13 Steward Candidates. And this is our big, our class list, our virtual class list. So we asked everyone, can you scroll up, Josh, to the top? We asked everyone to give us a picture and some bio information. So we have here all the steward candidates listed alphabetically by first name. We wanted to have a table of contents so you can more easily go to which steward you want to contact, but we had a little bit of a technical hiccup with that. So we'll see if we can put that in there. But right now what you have is a picture of every steward. You have their email, their phone number, what community they're in, the city, so you know about where in the county they are, their watershed, a bio and a fun fact. Now, not everyone has given us their picture or their bio. And so if yours isn't up here, just let Francesca know. And so you can contact anyone in the class just by emailing them. I did also want to signpost that you can send a message to the entire class if you want to, just by writing to the email address class13@aawsa.org. So let me pause there and see if there's any questions. And I am not seeing everybody at once. So if anybody has a question, just feel free to unmute and ask it.
This is Lauren, the problem child, I think, and that I actually involved my husband in today because I'm still not getting to where I need to be. And so a couple of things is on my iPad, I think I'm where I need to be. But on my laptop, I don't have the level of functionality. I keep on getting a URL that it's invalid to go to these places. And so this top bar with those selections are not available. And so another question is should I be in a Gmail account and not a Hotmail account? And then another question is I went into option security HTTPS, and could that also be an issue?
So Lauren, I think what I'm going to do is ask you, well, I don't know if you can, but if you can, I forget, maybe you were the person that couldn't stay after, but we'll talk offline about those questions because that sounds really specific to you. One thing is that I've found this website really likes Google Chrome. So you might just try a different browser if you're not getting all the functionality, but it sounds like we might need to do a one-on-one. So let's schedule that, Lauren.
Okay.
And we'll get you what you need. Anybody else have any general questions?
Yeah, Suzanne, this is Dagmar. I have the same issue that Lauren seems to have. So if you and I could talk, that would be great.
Great. Dagmar and Lauren. Anyone else?
Suzanne, this is Lynn Michael. I'm not sure if I'm on mute or not. I was not able to log into Zoom, so I dialed in instead, so I'm not able to see anything. Did anybody else have a problem with it, or was it just me?
It looks like most people are here, but you know, there is connectivity issues going on up and down the East Coast. That might be what might be going on. But when we get into our breakouts, maybe Francesca can help you try to get on.
Yeah, I might contact Francesca tomorrow because I have a 7 o'clock Zoom I have to join. So.
Anybody else have any general questions about the website? Okay. All right, Josh, you want to give a quick tour of Google folders and then we'll move on to our next thing?
Sure. So I've actually shared my own folder with myself, so you guys can see my messy inbox right now, but I'm going to open up that, and all of you should have received a link or a direct link to get to your own personal folder. And so I'm going to click on that to open it. And let me actually bring that over to the screen that I'm sharing. It's not participating. There we go. Now this is loading. But what everyone should see is that I've actually gone through and added the folders for your capstone and your community presentations, and you will see if it's not there already tonight, the GIS assignment as well. So that's exactly what Suzanne just showed on the website. So you can access those documents both places. But I'm just going to go into the community presentations right now and show you how you're able to kind of work through that. Actually, a better one second, folks. A better one to show you is going to be the capstone. So you have a couple options of actually accessing the document. You can open it up directly in Google, and that will open it up as a Google document in which you can actually type in it. So if you can kind of follow my cursor, I'm just going to put my name in here where it says steward candidate name. And it's very easy to just kind of go through that. And as you're making changes to the document as a Google Doc, you're going to see up here at the top, it's saying saved.
Josh, I can't see anything. Where are you? It's Dagmar.
Is anyone else having that issue?
I can see.
I can see it.
Yep.
To be in standard view in order to see your sharing.
Okay,
Dagmar,
Dagmar.
are you on a laptop or your
I'm on-
iPad?
Neither. I'm on my phone, on my cell phone.
Dagmar, we'll work with you afterwards to show you this.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thanks.
So once it's saved, a little cloud with a check mark appears there. So what we're gonna have you folks do though, as you're completing your capstones, if you click right here where it says Class 13 Capstone Proposal and Reflection, we're gonna want you to rename that. In the naming convention, and Suzanne, I might need your help here. It should be your last name, capstone.
Whatever the name of the document is. So if you didn't erase the document name, but you can just click capstone reflection.
Reflection and then complete.
Proposal, sorry.
Proposal completed. And that will actually save the document that way. And so I'm going to close out of this and show you back in the actual folder of that, you can see that the document's name has changed. And if I open it again, all of the work has been saved. So my name is still there, okay? So that's one option. You can also, if you're more comfortable working with Microsoft Word, if you go to File and go down to Download, it gives you the option to download it as a Word document. And if you do that, it will go down. You can open it up as it downloads. But honestly, folks, if you have time, if you're available to stay after a session tonight, Francesca's going to have a breakout room that will be able to walk through all of these questions if you have them. And of course, we're available to set up one-on-ones like we're going to do with Lauren and with Dagmar as well when it comes to office hours. So does that work, Suzanne?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to get back to our presentation here. Should I go through the learning objectives?
I think we already did.
Okay. Okay, well then I think we're ready for our breakout rooms.
So actually, why don't we just talk about what we're doing tonight? Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the next little piece of what we're going to do tonight is we're going to do some breakout rooms based on how comfortable you are with GIS. Those people that are like pretty comfortable, they're working with the system, they're, you know, sort of good to go. They're going to stay in this main room and Laura's going to record or she's going to give a presentation about using GIS. Those that and that will be recorded. So those that are going into breakout rooms, you can always watch that later. And those that sort of are a little bit more unsure about GIS are going to get to go into some breakout rooms and really make sure that you have a good handle on this GIS mapping application. I have one important PSA though, as we break up into rooms and learn the system, and that is that Anne Arundel County is right smack dab in the middle of upgrading the system and changing platforms. They really were unsure about when the transition would happen, but the transition will be to a new platform that won't look exactly like this one, but the functionality will be very similar. And so we thought that if you learned how to use this one, learning the new application would just be like riding a dirt bike versus a 10-speed. So hopefully you'll get a good idea of how to work the system, and then you'll be able to work the new one when it comes on sometime later this spring. We don't really know when. So with that, I'll let Francesca go ahead and divide out our breakout rooms.
All right, so you should be automatically placed in your breakout rooms. So here we go. All right, great. So those of us that are staying here are going to hear from Laura now.
Can everybody hear me? I just want to do a sound check. Can everybody hear me talking?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
I can hear
great.
you.
Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen, and I think I have permissions to do that. And hopefully this will work. 1 second. Oops. Sorry, a little rusty on presenting in Zoom. So do you all see Superman?
Yes.
Okay, so somehow I've lost my notes. So we'll have to, I'm gonna wing it. So I've lost the screen with my notes on it. Okay, so anyway, I'm Laura Mulvaney. Thank you, Suzanne, for the very kind introduction. I feel like I feel like WSA is part of my soul at this point with all the time that I have working and volunteering with WSA. But another one of my passions is mapping. And I hope that mapping becomes one of your WSA superpowers as it has mine, because understanding the power of information can really help inform your decisions and your steward action. So I hope that this information is helpful for you. Suzanne asked me to kind of cover a little bit about the GIS application, and then, but mostly about how I used GIS web mapping application as a steward. So, hold on. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to mention, I know that Suzanne just talked about this transition, but I have a little bit of inside information, and I wanted to suggest that instead of bookmarking the application URL directly, to always access the Anne Arundel County's applications through the County Maps tab on aacounty.org. This will always bring you to the page where every one of Anne Arundel County's web mapping applications live. So as they transition to a new platform, the new one will live somewhere on this page. I'm almost sure of it. And it may have a different name at that time, because we know that WPRP is now called Bureau of Watershed Restoration. So the name of the application might change, but where you can find it will probably be on this page. So I'd like to suggest that you start there and then launch the application from there. Also, I don't know if people know, but Anne Arundel County has made data very, very transparent. I don't want to overwhelm people, but just know that if you click on this Open Anne Arundel tab, your world will get very big with data. There's all kinds of information out there that Anne Arundel County has been willing to share. So maybe after you master the one application, you can check out all the other stuff. I wanted to remind people who've been using the WPRP application, if you've been frustrated by the information that you may or may not have received when you use that identify tool, I just kind of want to frame what the GIS is. GIS, so what you're seeing here on the screen is actually from my desktop GIS. So when you guys are using the web browser application, you're kind of seeing, I don't want to call it GIS for dummies, but it's GIS Lite. They've taken some of the capabilities of a real desktop software and they've pushed it to the web to enable the public to see it. So, but in the back end, when you use that identify tool and you're clicking on a particular point and you are getting that pop-up window to come up, what you're actually looking at is information from like a spreadsheet. So the GIS combines the location information that you would see in the map frame, and in the back end, it's just a spreadsheet. So spreadsheets are populated sometimes automatically with information and sometimes by people. Well, sometimes information is missing and sometimes information gets put in incorrectly. So if you click on a identify tool and that window opens and there's information missing, or you don't think it's correct, just remember that there's just a spreadsheet in the background. And so it might just have missing information or incorrect information. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into how I use GIS as a steward. on a few projects and hopefully give you some examples. This is my rain garden in my backyard, which was my capstone project that was installed in 2010, and definitely needed GIS to prepare for the installation of this rain garden. So I thought it was a good example. My capstone project sort of changed midstream when a potential partner kind of backed out, and we had a community level project, and so I had to switch gears quickly. But I was very interested in what was going on in my backyard, so I used the GIS to gather information beyond my project site. So 1033, the structure address is my house. I tend to use the parcel layer turned on with the structure address layer turned on so that I know which property I'm interested in. And in this case, I was really interested in what was going on with the stream that was behind my house and how it related to the stormwater infrastructure in my neighborhood. So in this case, in this slide, I used my identified tool and drew a box around all of the features, all of the dots and the trees and everything that showed up on the map. I just dragged a box and was able to get information about all of the things going on in my stream. My stream is very, very impaired, so that I knew that creating a rain garden at my house would actually, intercept water that was headed for the stream that was already impaired. One quick note, I'm not sure Josh mentioned this in the videos, but when you are looking at any mapping application on the web or any GIS software, the orientation of the map is that up is north. And I don't know if everybody realized that, but up is always north. Okay, so once I had that information selected, identified, all of those things, ditches and head cuts and erosion on the stream, I drilled down a little bit, and I was very interested in the pipe, which was the outfall pipe coming into my stream. So I was very interested in what was going on there. So I actually used the identify tool and got the pop-up menu for that particular selected item. And I wanted to show everybody that sometimes the GIS has in the back end has photos connected with it. So in this case, this pipe here had a photo that was hyperlinked, and I could see in the next slide, you're going to see the picture of the photo. When I was trying to site my rain garden, I knew this pipe really wasn't an impact. I just was kind of investigating the area around my neighborhood or around my lot. But there's a picture of the pipe, so you can actually use the GIS to see the photos and access the photos. And in a few minutes when we go live, I'll be able to show you that live. Okay, getting back to the use of the GIS on a property, for this rain garden, I used the measure tool to measure the roof vertices. So the portion of the roof that was facing north in my house, I was going to take the downspout water from the north-facing side of the house and put it in a PVC pipe around to the back. And that's just due to the grade of my house. So in my house is downhill from the street. So when you site a rain garden, it has to be downhill from your house. So in my house, the front yard drains towards the back. So I needed the rain garden there. So anyway, use the GIS to figure out the approximate area of the roof that would drain to this location in the back where the light blue circle is. And then because I know that the orientation of the map is north, then I knew based on how the sun is carried, which would be from east to west, that essentially this is going to always be a shady condition. So I used the map in that way. And then was able to install this project in 2010. And that is what it looked like on the 2 days after install. We had a very big rainstorm. Okay, so example number 2 of using the GIS as a steward. I'm famous for coining the "Honey, I Shrunk the Lawn" campaigns, which I did, I think my second year of being a steward. Here's an example of a property where I worked on shrinking the lawn, big residential property in Davidsonville with, as you can see in the GIS, in the leaf off condition, there's a lot of lawn to shrink. So in this particular case, the owner was very interested in working or planting the sloped part of the property. So as explained to me, she wanted to keep the middle part of the property before the hill started, was the term she used. And she wanted to plant as many canopy trees as would fit. So that was a question that I had to help answer. And so what I did was and also we needed to understand what kind of soil was on the site so that we could pick the appropriate types of trees. So the first investigation I did was on soil type. Using the identify tool, figured out the soil conditions there. Now I was just talking about tree planting, but so I know a type B soil is about infiltration, but it also kind of gives you an idea that if a soil is a type B soil, which you guys will learn, it's usually a well draining soil. And because it's on a slope, that means it's a dry condition. Somebody asked a question in the feedback forms about how good is the soil data, and the soil data comes from the NRCS Web Soil Survey. It's a generalized sort of data, so it's not it's meant for general planning. I would use it for, say, your homework assignment, but not for the final exam. I think for stewards who are going to be installing a particular project on a site, you're still going to need to do an on-site soil investigation, probably with a shovel and a perk test. That's how you're going to get accurate soil information. So although the soil map can show you kind of what to expect and some general trends, it's not going to be accurate to every foot. So if you look on this slide, where it's green here, this is basically a stream. So, you know, it loosely represents where the stream is and the area kind of buffering the stream. And the yellow is the type B, the typical soil, sandy loam soil that's around my area. Okay, so going back to the site and the question about the canopy trees. So I use the topo lines to see, okay, where the lines are close together, that's where the hill is steep. And then where they start to spread out and change directions, that's the area that this particular homeowner wanted to leave open for I think it was a recreational, use. So they wanted this open, not planted. So I needed to approximate how many canopy trees. So I dropped some dots in there, which using the draw feature to represent canopy trees. And then something Josh didn't do in the video, but is available in the online application, is a special tool, advanced tool called buffering, where you can create an offset distance from a point. So I know how to do that. I've kind of walked through the steps here. And I can show you guys later, but basically I wanted to plant trees at a 30-foot spread. So I created a buffer of 30 feet so I could kind of estimate, what is that going to look like? Am I going to have a closed canopy? And then this resulted in me suggesting to the homeowner that we should plant, 7 trees. And we came close to that in the ultimate planting plan. So another use of the web mapping application. Okay, and number 3, the last example I have to show you is somewhat of a recent example. I'm still doing work in my community. And this particular house, 2758 Swan Way in Davidsonville, this property behind here is owned by the community and is very much full of invasive plants. Now you can't tell that from this image, which is taken the data imagery that's currently on the mapping application is a 2018 vintage. So they will be updating this approximately every 2 years. They update the imagery. So, you know, this is a leaf off. So this is a winter scene taken in the winter of 2018, and it just looks like there's vegetation there, but you don't know what kind. So I was having this discussion because we had quite a bit of tree loss in the neighborhood this year. And this neighbor wanted to clear this open area all the way to the back line and put turf there. So I had a fight to convince my neighborhood board of directors that, you know, this land use right here is forest canopy, and that the county's, you know, goals are to maintain existing forest canopy or to create new and not to lose forest canopy. So I kind of used I wanted to use the GIS to illustrate that, but when I went to the WRS mapping application, I realized that that didn't tell my story in the best way possible. What it did show is the parcel boundaries, and it did show the stormwater infrastructure, which I thought was important piece of data to share with the community and this homeowner, because by removing this vegetation back here, that would cause more water to flow to the inlets and more water to go to the stream. So I did use that as part of my argument regarding infiltration or amount of water that was going to flow through there. What I really needed to show was some imagery, so the background image here, the satellite imagery with the leaves on, because I thought that would be more compelling. So I actually jumped from the WPRP mapping application to another application that's available from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources called Merlin. And Merlin, this is a static image, but Merlin uses a different or has available a different type of imagery, which is leaf on. And you can see here on the left side panel that imagery is available from prior years. So you could really look at how things change over time using the NAPE imagery. So I wanted to point that out, that the WPRP application is a window to data, and it may be limited. So if you find that WPRP's available data does not meet your needs, don't stop there, because there may be another application out there that offers you the information that you need. So Merlin is, I'd say, another primary resource for environmental data that is out there. And this example, I was able to really illustrate to my board of directors that that particular house did have existing trees that might have been cleared in the process of the invasive removal that was done. So that was very much more compelling to them to see the trees here in the leaf on imagery than the WPRP image. I've listed some other tools that you could probably just Google and find, but the best way to that I can offer you to access some of my suggestions is from a story map I had created, and this is on the WSA website under the Anne Arundel County Watersheds page. This is not a live link right now, but if you access this little window inside of the Watershed Stewards Academy website, that will have live links to all of these other applications and a lot more information. And I've put the direct link to the story map inside of there. Okay, so that's kind of the formal part of my presentation. The WSA asked me to answer a few steward candidate questions. And so I wanted to get back to everyone on those. One of the questions from a steward candidate lived in Crofton, and this townhouse community was a question about how do they get parcel information. So I think in this case, the steward lived in one of these townhouse blocks, but the surrounding area was a condo. Now this might happen where you use the application and you click on a parcel and you'll end up without a parcel ID number. It'll say something like 9999 or condo, or it won't have a parcel ID number. I would suggest to you that those are going to be special cases. So in this case, there is no ID for the parcel number, and additional research needed to happen in order to get the plat for this parcel outlined. If you did need to do a measurement on this, I guess what you could use is the measure tool and go on the outside of the parcel and then maybe estimate what one row of townhouses equaled, and you could do a rough calculation, but it would be quite difficult to measure every piece of this parcel using GIS or using the online GIS. Okay, there was another question about addresses being assigned. And so just wanted to let everybody know that the address points are assigned during the development process, and that the data that's in the mapping application might be, you know, a couple of months behind. So if you're looking for an address, you might be able to get an address by calling planning and zoning. But also there is an engineering drawing application that can may have access to the plan set drawings. And so the next couple slides kind of go over how to use the engineering drawing web application to get access to site drawings. So the way you do that is you would start at aacounty.org and launch the engineering drawing, record drawing and monuments web application. And then you'll be able to see using the as-built grid where there are sewer and water lines. So Department of Public Works creates GIS for every pipe and every manhole and every stormwater inlet. This application really covers sewer and water, but if you were to click on a particular sewer or water line in your neighborhood of interest, you will get a drawing set link. And if you click on the More Info tab in the pop-up menu there using the Identify tool, the next information will give you access to a plan set. So a lot of these plan sets have site plans, and site plans sometimes include stormwater management or lot numbers or things like that. Sorry, I just realized I took a bad screenshot there. I might have to sub that out. But in any case, site plans may offer you acreage and things like that on the first page. And if you take this handwritten number, 9085 in this case, and you call the map counter, you may get access to a whole lot of plan set construction drawings. So that's how you would go about that. So I think what I'll do now is stop my this part of the presentation and go to questions and maybe some live working with the application itself.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was amazing. We have a couple questions that came through in the chat. So Lynette was wondering, she said she's confused about how you drew a line around the stream kind of early in your presentation. Can you explain how to access that feature?
Yeah, hold on one second. So I drew a line. Let me just, I'm thinking about where that was. So hold on a second.
I think just to clarify what I was trying to type, it was really more, you said something about, I wanted to know all about the stream, so I highlighted the whole thing or something like that.
Okay, sure, okay. No problem, no problem. This is what I did. Hold on, lost my mouse here, hold on. Okay, so I know MyStream best, so I'm going to use that as an example. I hope that's okay. By the way, MyStream has just been restored. That's what 10 years of being a watershed steward will do for you, working hard on behalf of your stream. So this is MyStream, which is Flat Creek of the South River, and all of the data that has been collected in a variety of watershed assessments over time is in the group layer called Stream Assessment and Modeling. So if I click on that group layer, it's called, and the plus sign, and I click on toggle on all of the data that was collected during the watershed assessment, then I'll have the symbols of where they have, the data collection points. And if, I mean, you can use the identify tool to do it one at a time, right? I click on the tool and then I click on the symbol that should return something one item. So in that case, I have a deficient buffer, which means people basically mowed right up to the stream. But if I want to get a group of things, I click the identify tool and basically drag a box around it. And it will do a query on the database and will find everything that's within that box. And it might take a minute. I have no idea how successful we'll be on the fly here, but we'll take a look.
And it's looking for deficiencies or?
Well,
just-
it in this case, the tool is questioning the database. It is going to give me a result for anything that any layer that I have turned on, which is in my table of contents. Okay, so it will ask, so in this case, all I have on is the stream assessment data. So the identify tool will only give me the stream assessment data. If I had the parcels on when I drag the box, it would also give me any parcel which the box touched, if that makes sense. So the stream assessment data layer, the source of that is from like a paper report. It was data that was collected in the field during, like, they had people that walked the stream. In my case, South River Watershed Assessment was completed in 2008. And the data from the report was ingested into the GIS. So if I were to go to the results that were found, and I open that up, so I found 2 places where there is a deficient buffer, meaning my stream is not planted properly. And I can open that up and I can actually get a photo of what that looks like. So as I said, here's my neighbor, they mowed right up to the stream. So this functionality of the stream assessment data may not be included in the upgrade that we're talking about that's going to happen later in the spring. And the reason being is that some of this data is quite old and the county does not necessarily think that these photos are relevant anymore. So in this case, this photo is 10 years old. So they may not include the photos in the upgrade. So yeah.
We have a couple more questions. So one was, is there a layer that shows forest conservation locations? And I'll change it, Nicole.
So areas that have forest conservation easements,
Yes.
I think is what you're looking for. So yes, there is a forest conservation easement layer, but it is in the open data portal. It is not added here. If there are 2 suggestions I could make. If it's a compelling argument, I think WSA should ask the county to include the forest conservation easement layer in this mapping application. It's very easy for them to add data, but also I think that it's in the open. Oops, sorry. Let me tell you how to get there the way I told you to get there. So start with open in Arundel and data, open data portal, and I believe you can just search here for forest conservation. There you go, forest conservation. So there is data on forest conservation, and this is the open data. You can download the data if you wanted. You can download a shapefile and actually add shapefiles temporarily to the WPRP application. So that's one way to view it, but you could probably, let me see if there's a viewing option. So let's see if it'll let you create a web map with that. So you might have to look at this kind of independently first. See if it's any good. Okay. So I think there's, so I think the quick answer is yes, there's data. no, it's not in the web application now, but with some training, you could learn to visualize the forest conservation easement data.
Thank you. And we have just one more minute till everybody else joins us and we go to the next session. So
Okay.
I'm going to merge these questions. So one is, could you define a parcel? What exactly does that mean? This person's home is on 2 parcels. And then the other question is, how accurate are those parcel lines?
Okay.
So there's an example where their parcel shows a stream on the property of the school, but there's a fence there that excludes the stream.
There's a fence there. I'm not sure. So
I think that means the school put a fence in place to probably for safety, I would say, that they excluded the stream. But
yeah. Okay. So parcel layer is going to represent the property boundaries is the way I would categorize it. It should not be considered accurate. The only accurate parcel boundary information you're going to get is from an on-site survey on your lot. So because of land being developed over time and a lot of mathematical machinations have to occur to get parcel lines drawn, there is some twisting and bending and adaptations that are made to what we call the parcel fabric. So parcel equals property boundary. So the line here at my house represents approximately my property boundary. It should loosely represent the shape of the boundary, but where it actually shows up on the map could be skewed left or right, north or south kind of thing. Does that answer the question? I can't tell how I answered that question. Was that a good answer?
Sounds good to me. I think Kristen and Diane, you guys feel like your question's answered?
Great. We have some, that was helpful in the chat.
Great.
Great.
That, okay. So if there are no other questions, then go back to the main group.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was really, really wonderful.
Hey, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Big shout out, thank you to Laura, and big shout out, thank you to Jim and Lisa, who did a great job of explaining. We hope tonight has given you a basic comfort level with GIS, and you're going to get to practice for homework. So I think Josh is going to talk to you a little bit about your GIS homework, and then we will wrap it up.
I will do just that, if everyone can hear me. So just a little bit of word to the wise, I have access to all your folders. So if you're running into problems, I can get in pretty easily. But I'm gonna kind of creep on Francesca's right now. So I'm gonna click on hers. And like I said earlier, you should have another folder in your own folder called GIS assignment. So in Francesca's, I'm gonna open that up. And I'm just going to open up the GIS assignment. And as you look at this, I'm sorry, I actually think I'm going to lose my voice tonight. So sorry, guys. You'll see a couple things. This is going to be due next week, next Tuesday. And the idea is that you're going to be able to save this either in your drive by updating this document or by downloading and then re-uploading it like we showed. And I think Francesca will be able to show you how to do that a little bit later. Now, the folks who are in the breakout rooms with me and with Jim and with Lisa, this is going to look very, very familiar. It's actually the house that was across the street from what we were just looking at. But there's just a series of questions here that we're hoping you'll be able to work through. One thing that I need to signpost to people, I think you guys are aware that my office hours are typically Wednesdays 1 to 3. This week I have a site visit, unfortunately. So if you do need extra help, reach out to me via email and we'll set up a half-hour slot where we can chat and walk through stuff if you're having problems. Okay? Well, I guess I should keep sharing the end of the session, the important stuff. Give me 1 second, folks. Let me pull up our presentation again. If I didn't close it. There we go. Okay. Okay, like I said, so it's going to be due next Tuesday. It's in your folders, and don't hesitate to reach out for help. Suzanne, do you want to go over the important dates?
Sure. So this is just in addition to the slide that was last week. And just a quick reminder that if you haven't gone outside, walked around your neighborhood and tried to use the neighborhood source assessment, I would encourage you to do that. You don't have to complete it by next week, but during your pods, not this week, but next week, we'll have an opportunity to share insights, to ask questions. So it's good just to get a little bit of familiarity with that tool if you haven't already had a chance to do that by next week. So GIS assignment and trying out the neighborhood source assessment. And then again, on February 9th during your pod, you can talk, we'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit about the social assessment and any insights you've had doing the social assessment. Francesca actually brought up a good point to me when we were talking about the social assessment, and she said, make sure people know that don't have to do interviews in person. And it never occurred to me that anyone would do an in-person interview during COVID, but that social assessment asks you to pick 5 to 7 people in your community and ask them some questions. So if I were doing that right now, I'd just have a phone call with some people and ask them questions. If you want to ask questions about that particular part of the assessment, feel free to shoot me an email. And then again, your other 2 assignments, the community presentation and capstone part 1 are due on February 16th. So that's a quick snapshot of important dates. Next session, session assessment. So remember to go to session 3 and scroll all the way to the bottom and do your assessment for this week. Next week, we'll be doing engaging audiences, which is a really fun week. So make sure to go to session 4 and do all your pre-session coursework. And if you have not already registered for the annual conference, the WSA conference, which is March 5th and 6th, you get the special student rate. So you can go ahead and do that if you wish to come.